everybody, and welcome to the Sales and Marketing Director Incubator, the program that helps you make great career decisions to maximize your potential. My name is Mike Dixon. I'm the founder and partner of the Sales Marketing Category Practice here at AXR Recruitment and Search. And each episode this year, guys, we're focusing on a theme. In our last live session, we had Andrew Sutherland on from Light Switch Consulting, where he's the managing director, talking about the move between corporate and consulting and how to make that role stick. Now, 2 weeks ago, we were due to have on Yvette Costi, who is the CMO of Bloom's The Chemist, but COVID scuppered that. So we've actually recorded Yvette's episode yesterday morning. That will go live on our channels today or tomorrow, actually. So look forward to that. That's the theme there is hire the outsider. It's the best risk you'll ever make. She wrote an article that went viral earlier this year, talking about hiring outside your lanes. We had a lot of fun with that. But today we're back with a live and in-person session. So welcome, Elise Berryman, founder and director of Liquefy Health. Good morning, Elise. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. Really looking forward to getting into today's session. And the theme is the entrepreneur within. Now, Elise was successfully progressing her career in brand and category at pharmacare. So for pharmacare, if you're not sure, you probably know the brands for sure. So Nature's Way, Bioglad, to name a couple. Before stepping out as the entrepreneur, founder of Liquefy Health, an incubator spin-off business from pharmacare. So we're going to explore how that happened and what life is like as a founder. So let's get into it. But before we do, Lisa, we're asking the same question of everybody this year, which is, what's your favorite brand? And you can't pick a brand that you've worked on.
Yeah, this actually was a tricky question. I was chatting with my team last night about it, and I could say I'm pregnant at the moment, so everything in the snack aisle, because I can't stop snacking. But I did rack my brain to try and pin one brand, and I even scrolled my Instagram and all the brands that I follow.
Nice.
And I've settled on Peter Alexander, the pajama clothing brand. I just love it. I love the experience you get when you order a package online. They've got beautiful boxes they come in, the tissue paper, the actual product or the clothing, and the pajamas, they're so soft. I love the stores. They're just an experience. So it's always been a favorite.
Peter Alexander, I know it. That's a kind of a go-to for mine for Christmas presents.
Yes, very good for gifts, definitely.
Yeah, excellent. And we were chatting before about the theme we have for our rooms here at AXR. We're developing each room into a concept around what did you dream of when you were growing up in terms of a job. And we've got some cool themes coming like Rockstar and Adventure. We've also got one called Farmer, which is nice and steady, and a few other interesting concepts. But was there a job you dreamt of growing up?
Yeah, I kind of laugh about it. I just pinned a lawyer. I didn't know what it did, what lawyers did at the time. Dad wanted to be a lawyer, so I think that's kind of where it came from. And my uncle was a lawyer. But now that I've kind of discovered what they do, contract reading's not for me. So I'm really glad that we have people in the world that are happy to be lawyers.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting professions. My daughter's at uni just now, and she was looking at law, and she got accepted in for law. And
Oh, wow.
But she had a look at just the content, and she's got, I think there's more interesting things to do, Dad. I was like, yeah, I think there probably is. You do what you want.
Yes, I'm with her.
So she didn't go for it, but that's all cool. Well, let's get into it. So if you wind right back to the beginning of your career, Lisa, we'll talk obviously lots about Liquefy Health as we go, but what was your first job?
So first casual job, I was a gymnastics coach because I was a gymnast as I grew up, but full-time post-uni, I was very fortunate to go into my family business in the new product development role that they had created. Right.
Okay. So gymnast was just casual fun. Yeah, that was your hobby growing up, and then into the family. The family business is pharmacare.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. And when you look at that first role, now you can pick either the gymnastic instructor or with an MPD for this, but when you look back at that role, is there things that you learned then that you still think, wow, I use that kind of today?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting to reflect back on that. And I when we were focusing on new product development, like innovation was our life in that role. That's what we did every day. So I think that building that skill and Liquefy being at the heart of innovation now is of what we do, is kind of where I started growing the love for innovation. And the boss that I had at the time, which is now the GM of Nature's Way, he has hustle, and I really learned hustle from him, showed me how to break down barriers, how to come up with ideas. So really appreciate working with him.
That's super interesting. So, because we'll talk about that kind of whole pushing boundaries and what drives an entrepreneur as well. But it feels like possibly that was sparked a little bit by perhaps working with that individual. Yeah,
definitely. And I'd actually forgotten about it. So it was good to reflect back on it.
Yeah. Cool. And when you look at your time before you founded Liquefy, was there anything you did or a particular role you thought, I've really accelerated here? This is a part of my career where I've been able to push down the accelerator and gone faster.
Again, something really interesting to reflect back on. And I think I'll pin this 2-year stint that I did in the pharmacare office in London. And I think getting out of the Sydney office, probably that's where my father, Toby, is based, and over to work under a different GM and work on different brands, different retailers, got to learn Europe as well, and how, business can operate in Europe too. So I think I grew a lot of autonomy and just had a whole lot of learning.
Yeah. Life experience as well.
Yes.
I can imagine.
Lived by myself. Yep.
Yeah. In London, yeah, a lot of fun. I'm off to the UK next week actually for pretty much for all of June, and we're spending some time in London. So I love London.
So do I.
Great city. I've had the chance to live there several times. Never picked it. I've always thought, I'm not sure I could live there all the time, but I'd love to go and visit. Yeah.
Love the markets, love the shopping, love the restaurants.
Just a vibrancy to it. There really is, but which is awesome. Was there a point when you realized, and maybe it was, you reflect back at the MPD role, that you thought, I've got this entrepreneurial streak within me? And when did that come up?
I guess I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, to be honest. So thinking back of when that kind of really sparked, though, I would say probably the year or so before starting Liquefy, I was working with Trent Butler, the co-founder, on Nature's Way, and he has just an amazing creative spark, can think up ideas that have not been created before. And I think then that helped find that within me as well. And we worked really well together to come up with the idea of Liquefy. And I think that's where it all started.
So let's talk about Liquefy. So for those who are not going to be familiar with it, this will be a good platform for you to talk about it, but also people to learn a lot about the journey of that business. So give me the elevator pitch on Liquefy, and talk to us just as well about how did the business actually come about then? How did you and Trent decide this is something we're going to have a crack at?
Okay, so elevator pitch to start with. So I call us a dynamic sales and marketing innovation hub, within pharmacare, and we're driven to innovate the future of how we live health.
That is, you nailed that. You've done this before.
No,
that's very good. Normally it's about 2 minutes long, and I lose concentration halfway through. I was thinking
30 seconds, right? Elevator pitch.
I reckon you were 15. That was just a few floors on the elevator. That was good. So you talked about Trent before as being the co-founder, an ideas person. So how did it happen? How did the business come about?
So at the time, we both had launched kombucha under Nature's Way, and that's when kombucha had started booming. And then we saw the opportunity to disrupt the healthy drink space. So we saw there were ideas beyond kombucha that we could launch in the healthy drink space. Plus also, we think big, take on the likes of Coke and Pepsi, who have they didn't have brands in this space. So we wanted to go into a cafe, be able to sell in a Liquefy Health fridge and say, you'll know everything within this fridge is functional, good for you, and low sugar. And so we went to Toby and the CEO at the time and said, we've got a pitch for you, take your pharmacare hat off, think like Shark Tank. And we pitched it and they were on board. And then we pitched the management team and had back and forth meetings with financials and things like that. And then eventually got the go ahead.
I love that. So really Shark Tank like in the approach.
Yeah.
Was it, what, did you get asked any tough questions? Was it like, how did they kind of challenge you on it?
Gosh, it was about 6 years ago now. So I've got to cast my mind back. But I think we were asking to launch a new company and asking to launch 4 new brands below it. So there were definitely lots of questions.
It's a big ask, right? You know, to was this something Pharmacare had done before, spun off or created this business from you know, outside the company, but within the company almost? Is it new?
No, not that I can recall. A lot of Pharmacare has grown by purchasing brands and bringing them in-house. So I think this is the first time they've invested, for a company that's stayed within.
Right. So talk to me about the structural relationship. So how does it work between Liquefy and Pharmacare? I you know, because I guess the point of one of the points of this episode here is it's becoming more common for larger companies to think like this, to think, how do we create agitative thinking? Do we have incubators? How do we drive new without disrupting the core? And I think separating something out can be quite an interesting way of doing it. But I'd love to know how it actually works in practical terms with Pharmacare.
Yeah, so they're our owner, and / investor. And we report back to them on all the business financials. Currently within the Liquefy team, we're focused on sales and marketing, and then Pharmacare run all the operations side of things. So our purchasing, our warehousing, customer service, finance, and so on. And we just work with all their teams.
Right, great. Looking at your career, Alyse, do you think you're a different leader now from a business perspective, having gone on the journey for the last 6 years with Liquefy than you would have been if you stayed in Pharmacare or gone on to work in another corporate business, you know, doing, you know, different sales and marketing roles, for example?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I am a different leader now, having moved across to Liquefy. I think I'm more well-rounded in terms of business, being able to manage different departments within a business instead of just focusing on marketing. And I've really enjoyed that. I think I've understood how a business really runs from the ground up. When we first started Liquefy, there was just 3 of us, and we all were hands-on with doing the customer service, punching the orders, doing the finance, the accounting side, plus the sales and marketing. And then eventually, as we grew, we were able to put people on in those roles.
Right.
And then I could oversee that.
Yeah. And in the early days, when there's 3 of you, you're doing everything, how do you stop the minutiae of the detail, all the kind of day-to-day admin that you've got to do? It must be quite chaotic. How do you stop that from derailing the vision of what you're trying to do?
I think that's where Trent and I worked really well together, because he's more vision orientated with that, and make sure we would keep thinking that. And then where I was a bit more about running the day-to-day of the business and keeping the wheels turning. So I think that's where we were like yin and yang, but it worked.
Yeah. And I think that partnership thing is interesting. Entrepreneurs sometimes do it themselves, but they're often in a partnership when you've got, you know, very complementary skills. That enables you to, you know, focus on what you're good at. And I think sometimes people often try and focus on all the stuff they're not good at, and a lot of thinking today around as well, you can mitigate the impact of the stuff you're not good at, but do the stuff you do really well and keep doing that.
yeah, definitely. Keep growing your strengths, and I think more companies are having co-CEOs and things like that, so they see the different types of skills, and that knows that not one person doesn't necessarily have them all.
And have your roles evolved in that same way? So are you both still co-founders? And
both business? Still co-founders. Yep. He's moved across to Pharmacare and still works on Liquefy business in head of innovation and strategy. And we work really closely with him, but he also works on all the Pharmacare brands with their strategy.
So you're slightly more solo now in terms of running the business.
Yep.
Got you. So is what you're doing right now in terms of managing the business different from running a function or running a brand, or is it similar-ish because you've talked about the business being sales and marketing orientated, but because you're a separate company, how different is that from running a brand within the business?
I think touched on a little earlier in terms of being able to be across all the different departments within a business. I think how I see a business unit, it potentially would have just been marketing focused. And you still have touch points with all the other departments within a company. But now I've got to look at supply, look at sales, look at marketing, and finance, and oversee it all and step in when people need me.
Absolutely. Guys, for those of you who are on the live session, there's a chat facility, so feel free to jump on, ask questions. If there's anything you want to ask myself or Alyse, if you're on the podcast, you can't ask questions, you have to just listen, but that's all good. Yeah. I'm interested around how you measure success in your role. Do you have like an overarching KPI that's the thing that you kind of go for? Is there lots of ways in which you measure your progress?
Sales and profit definitely comes to mind from a financial sense. And I think that's been built in me through my time at Pharmacare and how they've grown, always having that number to strive for, and even a stretch number beyond the initial kind of budget number. So I've definitely got sales and profit. And then for me, culture is really important, and the retention rate, keeping employees engaged and motivated.
Great. And how do you, it's interesting because that reflects back to, I asked a question of Trish Pagora, who runs the Muti business. That's, it's a subsidiary of an international company. And I asked her what's her most important KPI, and I think she didn't say engagement, which is something similar. She said something around people contentment or something. It was really interesting, and some. I'm curious you brought that up as well. There's a commercial component, absolutely, but people too. Do you measure that, or is that just a feeling?
Definitely. I can measure it by a feeling, but we have implemented pulse surveys recently, which Pharmacare's implemented as well. And we've moved that across to Liquefy too. So we are starting to measure it, on that basis too. It's
interesting that the being able to kind of use what Pharmacare are doing in your business. Can you pick and choose what you want, or if they're launching something, say this is an all company thing, you've got to go along with it? Are you able to say, hey, that's we're a little bit separate, that's not quite for us?
Yeah, good question. It kind of depends on, I guess, which department the thing's kind of being implemented. So there are processes we do have to follow when it comes to, like, they've got an innovation gate process that we follow. But there are other times that we can pick and choose.
Right. Yeah.
What works for us.
So you have a fair degree of independence in that sense, in terms of deciding what's right for your business. Which again talks to the separation about that. If you're running a brand within Pharmacare, you'd just be doing everything that was coming at you. And I'm comfortable to go have the conversation with the chairman and the CEO of Pharmacare if I don't think it's right for our business. So with that in mind, what's your reporting line? You report to the business?
Yeah, I report directly to the CEO of Pharmacare, Glenn Cochran. And we catch up fortnightly, and I just, try and stay on the front foot with him of what's going on in the business, ask for advice, just keeping him updated where he needs to be. And then I also sit on the Pharmacare management team. So I then present the Liquefy numbers weekly and monthly.
That's interesting. So you're kind of getting the benefit of a peer group as well there.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think an entrepreneurial role can be quite lonely if you're kind of out there doing it all on your own, and that's why entrepreneurs often build boards, because they want people to bounce off, and it is a damn lonely role making all your own decisions. But if you've kind of got that manager team that you're part of, you've got people who are able to kind of say, right, I've got X challenge or a Y opportunity. What do you guys think? And you present that to them.
Yeah, definitely got that opportunity. And I think when we've all got a presentation coming up, I do touch base with a few of the GMs just to say, how have you taken the brief? What are you kind of presenting? And if they've gone first, get feedback on how theirs went. Yeah, it's been really helpful.
cool. Question from the chat from Stuart Bogue. Hi, Stuart.
I know him.
Yeah, me too. It's a small world.
I reported to him.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, well, hopefully it's not too tough a question. Congratulations on the success of Liquefy. The challenge of startups is often competing against large, well-funded organizations. Coke and Pepsi are some of the biggest, for example. But how do you manage to compete with whoever your competitors are, and particularly in that retail space?
Yeah, nice to see you, Stuart, or your name, and well done on everything you've done in your career as well since Nature's Way. Firstly, I'll say we're very lucky with Liquefy that we've had the philosophy, think like a startup, but act like an empire. And that's because we've always had the backing of pharmacare. So we've been able to be a startup where we've needed to be, but then be able to scale up where we wanted to. And I think that's what helped us compete against bigger companies, with always being able to have access to pharmacare's departments and resources and data. Within the retail space, I think it's come from a lot of our passion. With breaking down those barriers and being able to run a lot of the sales ourselves, we've had relationships with buyers directly, and we go present to the buyers, and we kind of Trent's a great storyteller, and we bring them on the journey, and we'd show them where we think their category should go, and I think that's helped them believe in us and range our brands. Yeah.
Talking to a lot of people, as I do in my role, organizations or people who are looking for career advice or a particular move, one of all, I meet people from a lot of large tier ones, and I meet lots of people from mid-tier and smaller companies too. And the kind of excitement level often from those in smaller businesses seems to be kind of higher. Sometimes people in tier one, they ground down a little bit. It's the relationship between them, the retailer, can be kind of quite intense and combative almost. Whereas I get the sense that a lot of the smaller businesses, particularly Australian-owned businesses, have great relationships with customers. They're seen as really useful for the retailer in terms of agitating and challenging the big guys. Do you get that kind of feedback and that sense as well?
Yeah, and I think sometimes the sense we have, like, what do we have to lose, when we're going into a meeting, because we're starting, like we've got nothing. So, sometimes that has helped us. And I think also knowing that potentially what we're presenting is different, and it's unique in the market, and it's all just about kind of convincing them and, to believe in us and take us on.
Yeah, very good point, actually. Naive of me, I'm thinking, really to kind of think, wow, it must just be awesome being that small company. But in the large tier one, my God, you've got a lot to lose. So there's a fair degree of risk there in the meeting, hence the tension.
And I say we might be a bit hungrier, and we've got to fight harder to get in the door first, because we don't have, the tier one name. And fight then to get that meeting, and then to get continue the relationship from there.
Yeah. Back to the people side, but thanks for your question, Stuart, and anybody else jump on if you want to. But if that engagement piece is really important to you from the people who work within the business, how do you connect them to the vision? Because you're the founder, so you're living and breathing it. But how do you kind of connect the people who are it's their job, to what you're trying to achieve as higher purpose? Because I love what you said there. Was it think like an entrepreneur, like an empire?
Think like a startup.
Think like a startup.
At like an empire.
That's great. So how do you kind of bring everybody else into that?
Yeah, I think it comes from our philosophy and how we live it daily. And when we come up against barriers or obstacles, it's like, okay, brainstorm, collaborate. How do we get around it? How do we get through it? If we do get defeated, get knocked down, get back up again and work our way through it. So yeah, I think and that's the type of people with that mindset that I like to hire in Liquefy. Right.
And is the role, if you look at the role they do, for example, as a if they're a brand manager or a national account manager, whatever it is they're doing for you, and you think back to your time at pharmacare, is the role fundamentally different?
I would say definitely, because our size of businesses are different. That makes it definitely different. And I think because our brands aren't so established yet, we need to fight for every sale, and we also need to spend every penny very consciously, and making sure we're getting the most out of it, or try and fight for freebies as well. So I would say in that sense it is harder, because a lot of the bigger brands, they know they've got constant sales coming in every month, and the brands are more established where we're still in that growth phase.
So that kind of ability to so every win is huge for you guys, and every piece of expense is huge for you. So there must be a fair emotional roller coaster that you go on.
The other day I think we needed batteries. I was like, oh, I'll go find them at pharmacare. The batteries are expensive.
Who was I talking to the other day about that? Who was in a similar type role to you, and he was trying to describe the difference, and he was saying that if we run out of milk, I go and get the milk. It's like, it doesn't just magically happen as it does in a larger business, that these things just can appear.
I know. I was thinking about that on my drive in, and like our office is made up of furniture that doesn't go together. It's just the old furniture that pharmacare used that we found in their warehouse. The couches we have are my parents' old couches. And James, who's my head of sales, who's listening, on his first day, he helped me unpack new bins that we needed for the bathroom. And we joke about, and my assistant brand manager, Liam, on his first day, he helped put up the doorbell. So you definitely got to roll up your sleeves. And we look for people that are happy to get their hands dirty.
And herein lies a difference, I think, doesn't it? I mean, there's the wins are amazing. The kind of the commercial acumen you have to be across every penny, as you say, is accentuated. Particularly, you have a CEO like Glenn Cochran, who's very commercial in my reputation. But nevertheless, and in practical day-to-day terms, you're living and breathing everything. So when I recruit for small companies, I use these types of examples to say, hey, you can't be walking in with an ego. This is not somebody else's job. There's no one to do this stuff. It's wonderful having the responsibility that you have in a small business, because what you do matters. Everything you do really matters, and that means you can impact a lot. But you can impact a lot negatively if you drop a ball, and you can wear that aside. But you're also doing stuff that you probably haven't done for years.
You get exposed to so much more. Beyond just, if you're working in marketing, they really become more well-rounded business people, because they're so close to the supply chain and finance, and we get to look at our P&Ls and the sales side as well.
We're living in strange times, Elise, on the back of 2.5 years of COVID. Reason I'm going off to the UK next month. For those of you who don't know, I'm away for June, so speak to Chris Hamill or Christina Lee in my absence if you're needing any help or advice. But because we haven't traveled anywhere really, we've lived in the economy has been by and large good, but it's been perilous in terms of predicting what's happening. We've got massive supply chain issues driven, accentuated by the war and Suez Canal, all this kind of stuff. The big macro stuff that goes on. Is a business like Liquefy just sail along regardless, or does it impact you the same way?
No, definitely. We were impacted from, as you mentioned, from a supply point of view. That's definitely one of the biggest. And I think now we're seeing price increases come from raw ingredients, from freight that we've got to manage and work through, which is challenging. And also the lead times on getting stock. So we've got to be better planned. Oh, sorry.
high-tech microphones here.
Yes, so we've got to be better planned, forecast further out, and stay more on top of that with their challenges. Yeah, that's been going on.
Right. So within, as you were saying before, so it's probably almost the reverse, because every small difference in your business has a significant impact.
Correct. Yeah.
Really, so actually a supply issue, a larger business might be able to kind of go to alternate source of supply, or they get more balls to juggle, whereas you've got fewer.
Yeah.
So actually the consequences of those macro issues at a micro level can be significant for you.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely always focused to try and have really innovative products, which does make it harder then to find more suppliers that can make them. So when you're just got one supplier that you rely on to make that product, it does form a challenge.
Yeah. I feel like Stuart's in the room. He's asked another question, which is a really good one. I've just scanned it, which I like. So I'm going to ask it. Stuart, keep them coming. It's a good. A lot of in-house incubator teams often succumb to the larger business processes and procedures, and risk aversion, which I understand, which can inhibit the entrepreneurial spirit, I guess, which is the fundamental reason why you've been set up. How have you worked with this or resisted it? And he then gives you a nice compliment too.
No, really good question, because it's something we kind of face daily, weekly. I think it is definitely challenging. Like I've talked about a lot of the positives that we've got the backing of pharmacare, but still finding that balance of speed that we want to have to market, but where now we do have to sometimes fit in with the pharmacare processes where it could slow us down. It's just, I do go and fight for if we want to speed up or not follow a process if we think it'll affect our strategy or business.
Do you have to pick your battles, or are you just the person who's always pushing back?
I think that's one of the things I've probably learned along the way, to pick my battles. And I think it's just come with experience as well, to know what you can push back on and whatnot.
Yeah, win the ones you want to win.
Yes, yeah.
Excellent. Now we talked earlier about the people side, and I'm interested with my recruitment hat on. So when recruiting for an entrepreneurial business like yours, what are you looking for in a candidate? Now, beyond the technical competence of this person can do the role, they understand how to manage bullies, or that good solid brand manager, but what else are you looking for?
Definitely hunger, driven to succeed, really high achievers. Like when looking at resumes, especially for the younger candidates, if they haven't had as many jobs experience, I then look at what's their extracurricular activities, what have they been able to multitask with alongside school or alongside uni, because then I know they can take on more. And then beyond that, really just being real, someone that's happy to be themselves, really just wants to have fun, can have a laugh. Like I've interviewed someone that got to a second round and I couldn't get a smile out of them. And I was like, they had all the, right things to be able to do the job, but I was like, I can't laugh with them.
Oh, yeah. So that the fit is really important.
Yeah, the fit's really important. And we have like this vibe check in the office that, how's the vibe today? To make sure the energy's there. And we have some music playing as well. And we, in the interview process, we asked some quirky questions. One that I've only recently started asking that I got from my brother is, what is it? What's your hidden talent? And you're hoping to get answers like, I'm really good at hula hooping, or I know sometimes like I'm good at singing, or I can lick my nose, or like you'll see whether they're happy to reveal something quite unusual about themselves. And then you know that they can be real.
Cool. All right. It's interesting. Interviews, I think, are I do a lot of them, right? So
yeah,
and what you're trying to get a sense and I say this to people up front when I meet anybody, it's like, this is not about me trying to catch you out. I'm trying to give you a platform to perform at your best, but I need you to be real. I need you to be authentic, because I know nobody's perfect, and there's a lot of stuff you're good at, there's a lot of stuff you're not. I need to find out what they are. And that means you just got to be really honest, and people struggle, and so sometimes you need questions that get them off guard. And you're just trying to get someone to get a few layers down. And for me, I'm much more boring than you. I've got to vary it. I like that. I like that question.
James has started asking, can you tell us a joke? Like if we haven't seen their laughing side or smiling side. And then that throws them as well.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh gosh, I don't know of a joke. Then you see how they respond to it.
Yeah. It's not how they got a killer joke, it's just how they respond to it.
Yeah. And then we used to do a really kind of random thing that we need to bring back. We've stopped in the past year. So we had a soft toy that was a dragon, and he had a little t-shirt on that said figment. So really a figment of your imagination. So we would just bring out Figment and would say, Figment has a dream. What do you think their dream is? What do you think his dream is? And it's open to them where they want to take it. And so we kind of look for, one, how they go under pressure, random question. Two, can they be creative? Do they have an imagination? Yeah. So it's a wild one.
The reach of the podcast is pretty good, Elise. There's a lot of people in Australian FMCG listen to this. So you might just give away a couple of secrets there for candidates you might be interviewing in the future. They'll be like sitting down going, where's Figment?
Well, we might change it actually, because we haven't done it for a while. We'll bring a different animal.
Yeah, love it. Cool. Do you think there's a right time in someone's career to look at a business like yours, an entrepreneurial business, a smaller business?
I really think any time in their career, like I think they can benefit from it at the start, the middle, or the end. And I think it's just about, they'll still get the experience and the learning no matter when they do it. Probably early on, they definitely will learn more about how a business runs because they're closer to all the departments. But it's still, very beneficial anytime.
The assumption is, I think that entrepreneurialism and startups are a young person's game. But you said they're early career, mid-career, or even end of the career.
Yeah, like it depends. Some people might want to change towards more the end of their career, and might be what they're looking for. They might have experienced all, tier one companies, and then be looking for something different. Yeah,
there's actually I can't remember the name of it, but there is a podcast out there which charts the I think it's a bit of a piss take. I think it's like called geriatric entrepreneurs or something, but effectively saying there's a whole world of entrepreneurs out there who get to the 60s and older, who start up businesses and have a brilliant. And I often think we talk a lot about diversity in Australia for very good reason, and we focus very much on gender. But I think we and not just we, I think other countries are the same, can be much more comfortable, strangely, with age discrimination and making assumptions on what somebody is like or what they want or what they bring because of their age, and seeing age as a label as opposed to it's just a number. And somebody at the end of their career can be more energetic than somebody at the beginning of their career, or have more ideas, and so because they're more experienced, or whatever the case may be, they push the boundaries more. And I think I love the concept of people all stages of their career kind of going, I'm going to jump out and do something really unique and different now. I think it's a really good concept.
And I think through your career, you definitely find out what you enjoy doing, but also what you don't want to focus on as much. So that's someone, wants to go into a smaller business and can be a bit more focused on what they enjoy. Yeah.
In a career sense, when you're working in a business like yours, that there's not the same structured development path. You've not like got, I do this role, that role, and then I jump into this lane, that lane. Now, you've got pharmacare, which presumably you can probably go between the two.
Yeah.
But in your business, is that career development piece, is that quite different from an individual?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Again, I think because of our size, and there's not as many roles as you see in a bigger business. But we definitely focus on career development with the team, and that's another thing, that they're all hungry to grow and evolve and develop their career path. So we have those conversations, we have them mapped out every year of where they want to go, and have constant chats about what do they need to keep doing to move to the next step, and where do they want to go.
And I assume that the career development is well, it's always down to the individual. I think one of the themes of the last couple of years doing this is that your career is up to you. No one owns it. It's your career, so you've got to the one who drives it and makes the decisions ultimately. But I'm assuming in a business like yours, that's accentuated even more so because the more successful you are as an individual, the more you're potentially growing your role, and therefore actually, taking ultimate control of your career because you're living and dying by how successful you are.
Yeah. And the roles, can evolve with the person. And we have done that in the past when we discover their strengths as well and create roles around them for what's right for the business at the time. So we've got that agility. Yeah,
which I like because you're not just bound by the fact that I'm waiting for so-and-so to move on or waiting for them to retire before I can step up, which can be the case in larger businesses. You're actually, you're something restricted, even though there's all these options. But if there's roadblocks because people haven't moved on, then you're stuck. And there's only so much you can develop your role, because if you develop it too much, you're doing somebody else's job.
Yeah.
Whereas if your business, actually not so much the case.
Yeah, no, it's not.
You're probably encouraging them to say, look, go as hard as you want.
Yeah.
Because we've got lots we could do here, lots we could ask you to do.
Yeah, and if they take on more beyond their role, you see, how they can evolve.
Yeah. What makes a great career conversation then with somebody in your business?
What came to mind was being open, like having the conversations, having them regularly, often, and I think as leaders, up to us to ask questions so we can understand more of what do they want, where do they go, where do they want to go, what drives them, what do they enjoy, and probing.
Yes, and do you expect them to have clarity of what they are looking for? Because again, there's not the structural piece that says I want to do that role, this role. Is it more how they can contribute to the business and grow their role, or are they looking for more push from you? How does it dynamic?
Probably depends on their level. So it's both. And if they don't know where they want to go, then it's more of the questions that, okay, what are you enjoying in your role right now? What don't you enjoy as much? Where do you get more fulfilled and satisfied from? And, then we can help map out what type of roles fit for them.
Who gave you your best piece of career advice? What was it? And if you can tell us who it was.
No, I think I'll give my dad a shout out here. So firstly, just even being able to watch him grow pharmacare, and his drive and motivation and energy was just amazing to be around. And I just learned a lot from that, even just being able to witness it. But to pick certain advice, he actually has quirky motivational quotes on his voicemail of his work landline. So he doesn't actually say, hi, I'm blah, blah, leave a message. He just says a quote. So one of the quotes is those that say they can't, won't, and those that they say they can, will. So really it's about always, just thinking you can do it, you can achieve it, and you will.
True, so true.
So simple, to the point, and never forgotten it.
Yeah, so true. So getting towards the end, Alyse, and not that your career's at the end or looking towards the end, but what's next for you and the business?
So for Liquefy, short term, we've got lots of exciting innovation coming in the next year. Listeners, watch out for things in some of the aisles of grocery and pharmacy stores coming up from us. And then long term, sky's kind of the limit. We've got lots of categories that we want to disrupt that we haven't yet. We've got lots of brands we've created that we haven't launched yet. So I call them our bank. We've got a bank of brands. And we've always had the dream to have a lineup of people working for Liquefy. So really want to work on that desirable workplace and culture.
Well, I hope this session has connected the business with some potential talent of the future, and you build that kind of bench of I don't know what you call liquefying, whatever you call a liquefied person, to
liquefier.
A liquefier. We'll take that.
Okay.
A liquefier. It's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much for taking part today, and And talking about a story, I think it's fascinating doing what you've done and seeing where the business is at, and it's very different to a corporate. But I love you can have that independence, but you've got the kind of capability to pick what you want from the larger
Yeah.
business as well in pharmacare. So really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Alyse. And guys, just in wrapping up, next in the sales and marketing director incubator is Daniel Roberts, who is the director of sales and marketing for Shine, another smaller business. In fact, I think previously a competitor to Liquefy, Aussie energy drinks business with a strong health philosophy. So we're going to explore how a fast-growing startup takes on the big boys as well. So there's a really pleased to bring more of these smaller businesses to life in this year's session. We're recording Daniel's episode on June 9th. If you'd like to join us live, or as always, you can catch up anytime on any session on our podcast, Your Future in Sales and Marketing, on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. Finally, two things to plug from AXR. Firstly, is our 2022 salary guides for sales, marketing, and category are available by request. There's some phenomenal content on there, not just in terms of what's happening to salaries in the market at different levels, but how roles are evolving, what the talent trends are with each role. And we actually have lots of links on there to content from the podcast, around career advice. So there's cool stuff on those salary guides. Also a first for the sales and marketing recruitment place in Australia. We've got a new bi-monthly report on the key movers. So who's moving where in sales, marketing, category in Australia. Now, LinkedIn is great, but this will give you everything you need in one place because lots of gossip in there too. So if you haven't had that, then let us know. We'll get you on the mailing list for that. Thanks again, Alyse.
Thank you.
Brilliant session. And guys, thanks to everybody for listening, and have a great day.